Indeed, it's stressful. That's the one thing I'd say. I would hate to be in that situation. But we are going into the game now, so let me introduce these two players. In the left position, we do have Team Properties Bobson, the blue Terran player currently fighting for his life in this series. And in the top position, we have Team Dignitas' Ourk as the red Protoss. I am Maddles, and I am here with the beautiful Zoya. And, well, are you having fun so far tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I like seeing Ourk play, ever since WCS Europe, where he took 4th place, I've always been intrigued in the guy, I don't get to see him play very often, and to be able to cast him is awesome. I'm happy to see it. And, I also get to see, the up-and-comers in the EU scene as well, like Bobson, and these are fun games, so I'm having a ton of fun. What about you, man? You having a good time?
I am having a great time. I'm really liking seeing these two go head-to-head. I'm liking the fact that most of these games are going slightly longer, as opposed to being more cheesy games, which you can unfortunately see. Well, I say unfortunately, you can see quite a lot of in Best of Nines. People want to get some of the games just quickly out of the way, make into a shorter series. But so far, these two happy to play passively, happy to play longer games where they're really macroing to the max. And I've got to say, Ourk is giving us all a masterclass in scouting. That is the one thing I'd say. His map awareness is insane. It's what's winning the games for him right now, as what I'd say.
I don't know if I'd go say it's solely winning him the game, but it's making it much easier for him to clinch that victory. His map vision is phenomenal. It really is impressive. His use of observers is phenomenal. He utilizes them all game, puts them in positions they need to, has probes, pylons thrown everywhere, DTs towards the late game. I mean, he's a very phenomenal player, and I'm glad he joined Team Dignitas. A good team like that, a solid one that's going to be able to support him, get him to events. I really am looking forward to 2013 and how well he's going to be doing this year.
Well, I mean, it was really interesting how he joined Dignitas as well, because you've got to remember he only joined a few months ago back at I-47 at the ESET UK Masters tournament there where I was casting, and it was actually in a tournament running alongside the ESET. It was the Scan Invitational, which was run by Dignitas for anyone there to essentially find a new gamer for their team, and he won that in the end, and as a result he is now on their team, and this will be a great little win for him. It'll be a nice notch under the belt just to make sure that he's doing that, he's making a splash, and everything is all cool. So yeah.
Very impressive player. Bobson, despite being down 3-1, he's playing fairly well. Like I said at the start of this, I did feel like Ourk was going to win it just because Bobson's an unknown to me, and I still think that Ourk's definitely going to take this series. He's just playing so very well. Like everything with his play is just solid right now.
Well, he is in a strong spot at the end of the day.
Yeah. he did play a little bit goofy towards the end of Whirlwind. He should have won that a lot quicker than he did. Going up to 30 gates and 5 robos was not necessary. He was sitting at max versus 100 supply for a good 10 minutes, but better safe than sorry when you're playing for money.
Have you ever lost in that situation, Zoya? I know I have, where you've been astronomically ahead, and I usually end up thinking, oh, I'm so far ahead now, I guess I'll just take like 6 expansions and whatever, and I'll be safe. I'll go like Matt's battle cruiser, because why not? And then suddenly your opponent like rushes you with DTs or whatever, and you're just like, oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah,
you ever done that?
We've all experienced that at some point. We all make goofs. Even the pro players, like the top end pros, like Hyun, for instance, he makes mistakes from time to time. So we've all experienced it. Like, oh wow, I can't believe I just threw this game. That stinks. I had it won and haven't so long. We're seeing a similar situation as to game number 1 and 4, where we're seeing the macro game unloading gate with Nexus after 2 gates after the Nexus. Should be seeing the robo from Ourk sometime soon, and the same opener from Bobson as from all the other games we've seen really.
Indeed, and it's all good. I mean, obviously Ourk now getting up those 2 additional gateways, so it's so similar to everything we've been seeing, and I'm surprised they haven't actually varied more, with the exception of, it was game 3 I believe. They've both really gone for the same build every single game.
Well, let's look at it from Ourk's perspective. He is really taking control of the game. He's not one game has it been like I just got completely he completely outplayed me. Game number 3 he lost to a blunder on his end, no big deal. But all 3 macro games he just had full control of the game. There was never a moment where it's like, oh okay, I am in a lot of trouble here. So why change up your build? Keep it safe, keep it standard, because obviously your standard macro play is enough to win here. So unless you're in a weird spot, maybe your game 4, one from winning, you might throw in like some little cheese here for fun. But why change it up?
Exactly, and the only person I'd like to see change it up is Bobson. I mean, Ourk standard play has got some people saying, well, that's a bad thing. You don't want to do standard play. Everyone's going to be able to predict what you're doing. But as you quite rightly said, if it's winning for you, don't fix what isn't broken, is the saying that I always follow. And it's really true of Ourk. He's got his robotics facility up now. He's got his warp gate tech finish. He's getting up his robotics bay, so going straight into Colossi, which wasn't actually scouted, that robotics bay, out of Bobson. He didn't see it. So all in all, Ourk is yet again in a good spot. Meanwhile, we've got an early stim timing, the engineering bay finishing up just as normal, the factory there. We've got the double reactor coming down. And, well, the only difference is Bobson's moved out a little way to hold the watchtower. But other than that, this could be anything from game 1, 2, or 4.
Yeah, this is the exact same openers. I like the fact that Bobson's denying the watchtower. This makes Ourk a little bit wary. You know, he only has the 2 sentries, a Zealot, and 2 Stalkers to defend with. And not seeing the push coming is going to be annoying for him. Now, I don't think we're going to be seeing any push from Bobson anytime soon. But, you know, it's nice to see him take a little bit of map control. Here comes that first observer moving across the map and get a full scout of the main gate. And this is the... I mean, these guys are not changing it up in the sliders. We see the double forge, same exact timing. Thermal Lance and Colossus on the way after the 2 observers from Ourk. And the same exact stuff in the same base, in the main base of Bobson. Now, Bobson did change up a little bit, though. His +1 attack is way delayed. You know, normally he was getting around the 7-minute mark, 6:50-minute mark, but now he's not starting it until about 8:40. He's way delayed on that +1 attack as opposed to, you know, his earlier games.
And when we're seeing that the pattern arising is that Ourk gets ahead in the upgrades quite substantially anyway, and that's usually where Ourk really starts to come into his own, it can run into a problem for Bobson by delaying that. And I'm not sure if that was done purposefully, or whether instead he just missed it and prioritized other things. I mean, he's getting some medevacs out now, but I can't see anything that is super different that would warrant it. I don't know if you're spotting anything at all.
No, he got the gas at the exact same time. You know, he should have been able to afford it. I mean, he was able to afford it. He might have just possibly forgotten. You know, the medevac counts the exact same. The upgrades with stim and combat shield are the exact same. He just kind of slipped his mind for a moment. You know, it's a minute and a half off of its normal timing, which you know, can be frustrating. And it goes back to what you said earlier. Double forge every game from Ourk. You know, we've seen Bobson behind on upgrades every single game. And any delay is going to make it, you know, more in favor of Ourk once we get to that late game.
Exactly, and I mean, it's no fault making small mistakes, because at the end of the day, these two players have already been going for what is nearly 2 hours of solid games. It's quite stressful. You're playing for money. I mean, look at people who get ladder anxiety when they're just playing for ladder points. Imagine what it's like when you're playing for £200. It's going to be a completely different situation, and you've got intense focus. And I always say that it takes so much attention in this sort of situation, because you're trying to account for everything. And when you are in the worst off position, when your opponent is actually coming at you strongly and you're behind in the series, then that stress mounted on with the pressure, mounted on with all of the focus, adds to a situation where psychologically it's been very, very difficult. But I'm just noticing this drop about to come into the main base, and there is a couple of Stalkers and this Colossi yet again sitting there for Ourk. So we saw this in all the games, and I think this is just great having this drop defense passively there. And it's not going to do much, this drop with the Colossus, then straight away the medevac picks it up and pulls back. So good play by Ourk yet again.
Yeah, Ourk actually did have an observer patrolling in the spot. That was the medevac's flight path. He did move it just barely out of range, so he didn't get to see it coming a little bit quicker. But like you said, Ourk's just got this solid drop defense. And, you know, we're seeing a macro game done. Still no third base from Bobson. Would like to see that soon if he's going into a macro stance. He might do a time attack. There's so many Vikings here for him. Already up to... He's building 4 at a time in that very fast double starport. Might hit a 2-base timing where he's going to try and overwhelm his opponent, take down those Colossus quick. With the style that Ourk's been playing, it's a very, you know, gateway, you know, not very heavy count until he gets up the charge. He always keeps it very low, so if he can overwhelm those Colossus, the bio will be able to control the ground, and he might be able to hit a 2-base timing. Still no third base. I'm thinking that he's just building way too many Vikings, though. He needs to start mixing a couple medevacs.
That's my concern, is he is going so heavy on the Vikings at the moment that he could run into some problems. The other thing is that there's no +1 infantry armor yet either. So when we're looking that Ourk is already halfway through 2-2 and has been chrono boosting them through, his High Templar Archives is now done as well. This could get a little bit awkward. Ourk chucking down a couple of photon cannons at his natural, so that is going to aid his defense massively. The scan just picking off the observer, but Ourk, he knows what's coming, and he's preparing appropriately in my opinion.
SCVs have been pulled. This is a little bit all in here from Bobson. He has to do a decent amount of damage here. There's just so many Vikings here. The Colossus count is only at 3 right now, but they're going to be able to do a lot of damage. Here comes the stim, going to try and take down those cannons. The Storm is not near done yet. It's nowhere near finished. The Colossus are being focus fired down so far. One of them is falling. Good force field's going down. If he can take down the Colossus, he can control the ground. One of the cannons does fall. The Viking come for that last Colossus is going to fall. The force fields have been pretty phenomenal. Vikings going to land on the entire army. Will Bobson have enough? Then your probes are being pulled. The Archon is going to try and do what it can. There's still so many units here for Bobson. These force fields have helped them out, but I think Bobson might be able to take this game. Ourk down the 95 supply, stimming again. The medevac count's still fairly low, but I think he's got enough to take it.
He has definitely got this right now. The probes being pulled is never a good sign. Even from the main, the probes coming down. Bobson just kiting backwards, doing as much damage as he can, picking off so many workers. And of course, Ourk down to nearly half the supply of that of his opponent. This natural nexus is taking a lot of damage. There is the one Archon, a handful of Stalkers, but with the 4 medevacs there, with the stim available, with no sign of a Colossus popping anytime soon, this is not looking good. Once that nexus goes, it is pretty much the nail in the coffin. And well, this is game right now. It's just waiting for the GG in my opinion.
Unfortunately, the only thing that's going poorly for Bobson is he's overstimmed. The medevac count is still fairly low. He's building 3 right now, though. That Colossus does show itself doing a lot of damage. Ourk might somehow be able to hold here. Nice feedback on one of the medevacs, reducing that energy. Gonna try and snipe this other nexus. If he can get this nexus, that will definitely be the end of the game for Ourk, and it looks like it will fall. Ourk up to down to 59 supply, does not have enough minerals to rebuild that nexus. So even if he cleans up this army, this is definitely GG. Nice pickup from Bobson. Does lose one of the medevacs full of units,
ace.
But yeah,
wow.
This is over. I mean, we're going to see the all-in here. He cannot afford to build another Nexus. 25 minerals. They're going to send everything across the map. With the medevacs back home, if he doesn't even have to build bunkers. He can pull all FCVs, just kind of move into this. This is definitely over for Ourk.
He's not got enough to deal with. I mean, looking at the army supply, 71 army supply for Bobson against the 31 for Ourk. Even with all the probes there, the scan goes down at just the right time to see it coming. And, well, straight away, we've got all the units coming out. The SCVs are getting pulled now. And here we go. We're going to see a massive engagement coming down fairly soon. Ourk pulling back. He knows he's not got enough to deal with this quite now. The Vikings are engaging on the Colossus. We're seeing huge amounts of damage getting done everywhere. There's a good Viking count. That Colossus is about to go down. And now that's fallen. It is just a handful of Stalkers. And there is the GG out of Ourk in what was an absolutely incredible game.